Good afternoon. I'm Rob Grimes with the IFBTA, and I'm really pleased to do a Meet Our Member, one of the series. And our Meet Our Member is going to be with Chad Leedy, who is the head of strategic accounts and retail compliance for ControlCase, and they're an industry supporter member of the IFBTA. So welcome, Chad.
Thanks, Rob. Good to be with you again.
So with your experience and with the things that are out there, if you wanted to sort of impart some knowledge that you've gained either personally or through the peers that you work with in other industries, is there some advice that you would give the hospitality food service industry that they should look at another industry who's doing some things that you believe are going to impact us and we should think to the future? You already mentioned healthcare, but you actually mentioned it the other way around. So the question is, given where we're headed in our industry, what can we learn from the other industries that your company and that you work with?
Well, I'm learning a lot now about companies that deal with the government. And I think they have been very progressive in security standards for obvious reasons, right? So I think a lot of those standards are overlapping and definitely they're one of the few industries that were looking at data security ahead of the restaurant industry. Right. So there's still security standards coming out for government entities. And that to me is very interesting because I think they are ahead of the game. But, the healthcare industry too, I mean, I look at it from both directions. You did mention they are very complex. So they have multiple kinds of data. And I do think that there are things to be learned from them. But I also think they can learn from the restaurant industry. I think we should do more.
Well, the interesting thing about that, I mean, the interesting thing about that, you're just about to say it and I cut you off, but the cross industry, because in reality, we have food service within healthcare. You've got food service and gaming that go together, and airlines, the airports, which a lot of them are government regulated, and the security that's involved in an airport, having worked with some of the airport providers, so in reality, it is all the same thing. Because you don't know where food service is going to end up, in retail and all these other areas. And when we do end up there, we have to abide by their standards. So there a...
I mean, they have fast food. The people that are going to listen to this know that there are fast food operations at the Pentagon.
I knew you were going to say that. Robert Irvine, who's been on here, Chef Robert Irvine, has, I think, 9 or 11 operations at the Pentagon. I went to visit them, couldn't take my cell phone in there. And I wanted to take, they let me take my cell phone, I had to turn it off. I wanted to take pictures of the equipment just to remember what was there, couldn't do it. And they don't want that kind of, those connections. So absolutely, we see it everywhere. And those standards become ours. So maybe we should be proactive and just go to the highest standard and assume that we're going to be everywhere.
Well, actually, I'm hearing more and more people say that. They're saying, it leads me to another really big value of ControlCase is even if we're only assessing for PCI, we had so many people that said, you know what, I really want to be NIST compliant. I really want to make sure that I'm following these standards. So what we did, which I think is brilliant, is we said, you know what, even if you're only getting a PCI certification with us, we're actually going to pre-populate the NIST portion. We're going to pre-populate SOC. We're going to pre-populate HIPAA. We're going to show you where you are with these other standards, even if you're only you're complying with PCI. Right. And people really appreciate that. And it sort of leads them to that one audit engagement. I think that people want to know where they stack up with these other security frameworks, even if they're not bound by them today. And that's something that our portal does that's very unique. I don't know if there's anybody else that does that actually fills out. We have a proprietary way that we answer the PCI questions within the portal, and it pre-populates the other security frameworks. So it's pretty ahead of the game.
And what do we call the one program?
It's one audit. It is our proprietary system for complying with multiple standards with one audit,
it's
one
the
engagement.
Power of one, right? One.
That's right.
Curly.
That's right.
Who said that? But So last question for you. I mean, obviously, you've alluded at the beginning and during this that we have known each other a long time, but it isn't really about, our personal relationship here, but what is it, that really drew you, almost immediately upon joining ControlCase, joining the IFBTA?
Well, I consider the IFBTA a critical tool in my arsenal in terms of relationships. And there's a lot of reasons why. But I mean, really from an industry perspective, I remember the first time that I was aware of the IFBTA because we were hosting a party at one of my previous companies, and adjacent to our party was the IFBTA. And everybody I wanted to talk to was in that party. And so somebody broke me in. I shouldn't tell you this, but they broke me in. And I mean, right then I was like, these are all my people. I need to be a part of this organization. And from that point forward, every company that I have been, it's not like I've worked for a million different companies, but the last couple I've said, we have to join this organization because this is where my relationships are, and new relationships always come about. And you guys are really great connectors. If there's somebody I want to meet, all I have to do is, talk to one of your people and say, hey, can you introduce me? And they're great about it.
It is one weird family. And we like being referred to as a connector. You've also said that's the value that you bring to the industry as being a connector, because it is about connecting the pieces and bringing them together, the integration factors. But it is an important thing, and we greatly appreciate your support, and also of ControlCase, who is a industry partner and a supporter industry partner, which is a very important piece of the relationship and getting to the industry on a global basis. So, Chad, I want to thank you for joining me today and having this conversation. More than just about being about ControlCase, but also explaining to people where the future is and how this all fits together, and perhaps explaining to them that complexity that's going to come with them that they need to be thinking about as they integrate more and more applications, not because somebody told them to, but the customers did, or they just happen to be invented. So I really appreciate your joining us today on this.
Yeah, great conversation. Thanks for having me, Rob.
Great. Well, thank you. This is Rob Grimes with the IFBTA, and showcasing a Meet Our Member of ControlCase, and having the pleasure of speaking with Chad Leedy today, the head of strategic accounts for retail compliance at ControlCase. And thank you for joining us. And until next time, have a great day.